I am going to show you a tutorial on the Laurel baby blanket slash shawl slash shrug today. I decided that I was going to show you how to not only how to sew up the sleeves to turn this into a shrug, but also how to figure out the size for yourself. So first of all, this is a giant square that could be used as a baby blanket or folded in half to make a triangular shawl that's tiered, and I've shown you how to do both of those before. So today I wanted to show you how to figure out the size for yourself to make this a shrug and how to sew it together. If you wanted to make this only temporarily put together as a shrug so that you could still use it as a blanket and a shawl, you would want to make crochet chains and corset tie them, kind of like you would tie shoelaces. But I think that I'm going to wear it pretty much exclusively as a shrug, so I decided I'm going to sew it permanently this morning. But again, I've shown both ways many times before. If you want to be able to use it in the variety of ways, don't sew it permanently, sew it temporarily with corset ties. However, the tips that I'm going to show you for sizing it are universal and the same regardless. This is the Laurel baby blanket slash shrug slash shawl, depending on how you want to use it. It is a giant square that's work bias. It's a 3-ball project in Be So Vivid yarn, and this beautiful colorway is called Moon Mist. So if you're going to make it into a shrug, the first thing that I would suggest is to fold it in half. I'd say lengthwise, but it's a square, so it doesn't matter which way you fold it in half. But I've folded it in half, and I've taken some of our split ring stitch markers and attached them in the corners, okay? So then I just eyeballed about a foot from each of those corners and secured a second set of stitch markers a foot in from the corner. This is just a guesstimate. Once I try it on, I'm going to be able to determine whether or not that's a good spot. Whether or not that's a good spot, or I need to make it tighter or looser. So now I'll put it on with my makeshift sleeves. Okay? And I'm thinking that that's probably not tight enough. So I think I might go in another 3 inches on each side. Can you see what I'm doing here? So I'm going to pull this out. Ideally, you would want to bring 2 more stitch markers so you could attach the next one without taking that one off, but I'll eyeball it. I'll be okay. And then I'll do that again on this side. So I'm going to eyeball about 3 inches again. And if you wanted to be more precise, count how many stitches up you moved both pieces. Okay, let's see where this is now. Okay, that's a little tighter. I like that much better. And now I'll have more pronounced sleeves as well. Okay, so now that I have them pinched, I'm going to take it off and double check that they're exactly even. Because if they're not, I might adjust one more time before sewing. I have a feeling one of them's a little tighter than the other, and I like the looser of the two, if that's the case. And it is most certainly the case. I eyeballed a little off, so I'm going to I'm going to move the camera down now so you can start seeing what I'm doing, because the rest of this will be down in my lap. Right, so now I'm going to set this down so you can, uh-oh, did I just drop I dropped my needle. Are you kidding me? Talk about needle in a haystack. Oh, boy, am I lucky. How lucky am I? I just found my needle. Wow. Okay. Okay, so now I notice that I didn't do them exactly even. Here's my 2 sets of corners, and I'm off by, well, not off by much. I'm off by 2 stitches. Whoop-de-doo. But still, this is a great time to check before you start sewing, because like I said, I'm going to sew this permanently. If you wanted to do this you know, temporarily by corset tying with a chain, you absolutely could, so that you wouldn't be limited to just the shrug. But I've decided I really want to just wear it as a shrug. I'm probably not going to use the other options. So I'm going to take a piece of yarn, cut a decent length of it. Okay, and now I'm going to trust my measurements here and open this up. Now I happen to not have extra yarn of this color available. I used up all 3 balls making this, and I didn't want to dip into a ball, so I just took a complementary color from my stash yarn, which will be fine for doing this. And I'm just going to go in and out of 1 stitch at a time each side, and you'll see this will end up being invisible anyway. And I'm just going to go one for one stitch and then 1 stitch. All right, so we'll go back down to stitching. I'm just going in and out, 1 for 1, and we'll sew all the way up to our next stitch marker. Pretty easy, right? Once you try it on and use that as your trying things on with stitch markers, split ring stitch markers is such an amazing way to custom fit things. If you're unsure, like if you're making a garment and you're unsure where to put the armholes, you could also test that. If you're trying something on and you're unsure of how wide you want your neckband to be, definitely try it on with stitch markers. I do this all the time when trying to figure out what I want something to look like. Anytime you are piecing things together, top-down construction's a little different, but then again, with top-down construction, you can try things on as you go anyway, so that's still great too. But anytime you're making things in pieces and you're unsure of where to place an armhole or a sleeve seam or something of this nature, or side vents, securing things with stitch markers temporarily, and it only works if you're using split ring stitch markers, but that's why I so strongly believe in split ring stitch markers, because not only do they then benefit knitting and crochet, so you don't need 2 sets of stitch markers, which is just more things to store and remember where they're at, but also they can be used as other types of tools like this for styling things, or not for styling, for draping, but to be able to temporarily try things on. They are the easiest tool to do this. And the best part, they're a tool you already have. So a tool that has multiple purposes, in my opinion, is the best kind of tool to have. And the split ring stitch markers that I sell come in a color-coded set, which is rainbow, and who doesn't love rainbow? But it means that you have the ability to mark things for different reasons within the same project, which I think is also absolutely fabulous. Like, let's say you want to mark something for different parts of a project. You want to mark a placement for a hem, a placement for a sleeve, a placement for ties or buttonholes, or mark the beginning of a round versus the beginning of a repeat of a stitch pattern, or the beginning and end of something. Like, there's so many different types of things that you sometimes want reminders for in a project, that having color-coded stitch markers is even that much more helpful. Like, so my stitch markers have so many different dual purposes that I think that they are amazing. And the price, I'm sure Judy's posted a link to them. If you want a set, I have them very reasonably priced on my website. And like everything else on my website, you get reward points for every purchase. So, okay, so now once we pull this tight from the beginning to the end, you can't even see the seam. So I mean, talk about being a no-brainer. For even as long as you pick a complementary color, you absolutely do not have to match your yarn. Oh, this is an example of what I was talking about last week about weaving in loose ends too. Remember how I said anytime you can weave in your loose ends around a seam, it's that much easier to do because you have the bulk. So look at the wrong side of our work now. The type of seam that I did gives us this raised edge, which is a little bit more dense of a stitch. And look at how fantastic this is for weaving in our loose ends, because with all that extra density on the wrong side, there's no way this is going to show through to the front. As long as I try to keep my weaving in that dense section, it will not show on the right side of the work. It's just that much easier. And we like easy, right? Okay, so I wove it back and forth several times. This is always unfortunate when this happens. Does this ever happen to you? Somehow you get a looped little knot while you're sewing. So annoying, but as long as you stay calm, it's okay and you can get it out. See how calm I stayed and I just calmly took it out? If I got frustrated and pulled on it, guess what? I would make it tighter and that much harder to get out. You gotta stay calm when you got knots. Okay. All right, maybe I should try it just in case we don't have time to do both sewn seams. I'm gonna weave in my other loose end while we're talking, and then I'm gonna try it back on, showing you side. I think seeing them side by side will be a good comparison too. Okay. All right, so try this back on. Oh yeah, look at how fantastic that side looks. Can you see? Look at that sleeve. How gorgeous is that, right? So this sleeve will look this great once I do both sides. Hopefully you can see that. All right, and I'll come back now. What do you think? Do you like it? And in fact, it's another great way that self-striping yarn looks good. Both sets of the stripe in that section are slightly different, so it gives you more variation of this self-striping yarn. It looks so good. Oh, I'm glad you all like it too. Yay! Yay, wonderful. I'm so glad you like it too. Yeah, really, really wonderful, wonderful way and super simple. Look how quick that was too. Now, if you wanted to do it with a corset tie, you could do that as well. It would look just as pretty, and it would be convertible where you could undo it when you didn't want to wear it this way. But for me, I wanted to wear it this way permanently, so I think sewing it is perfect. And notice how invisible that seam is. Isn't that a great seam? Oh, look at my sleeve. So pretty. Look at that sleeve. I love it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all, please leave them for me in the comments. Everything we talked about today, you can find as links in the video description below. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. I'll see you in the next video.